I need to tell you about something that feels like it's straight out of a horror movie, but it's real. Now, in the 80s, under the rule of dictator Chun Doo-hwan, there was a place in South Korea called Gyeongbokjiwon, Brothers' Home. Now, on the surface, it was a reforming home for the homeless and orphans, but scratch beneath the surface, and it was an actual nightmare. We're talking thousands of people. The homeless, addicts, children, the disabled, even random people on their way to work were being locked up and actually tortured, and I'm not exaggerating either. On arrival, inmates would have their heads shaved and they'd be put in the same blue tracksuits. Every day consisted of grueling manual labour that, if you couldn't meet their ridiculous quotas, resulted in a beating. Some so vicious that inmates would die. Death wasn't uncommon here either. Eventually, inmates would just get used to watching their fellow inmates just be beaten to death. And the guards' abuse was brutal. In fact, they made games out of it, like hanging inmates upside down until they passed out, or trying to see how many teeth they could pull out of your face. Now, this isn't even half of the abuse that happened at these camps, mainly because we can't talk about it on these platforms. The whole thing was ran by a guy named Park In-kun, who pretended to be a good Christian, all the while raking in donations and government money whilst keeping people locked away and making them suffer for years. Now, these camps would come to an end in the late 80s when it was discovered the levels of abuse that was happening here. And despite being put on trial, Park In-kun was only ever sentenced to 2.5 years for embezzlement and would live the rest of his life relatively comfortable. Today, survivors of Gyeongbokjiwon are looking for validation from their government over the horrific ordeal they went through. Hopefully one day they can get the justice that they deserve.